let's give it another minute.
Sounds good.
Can they hear us and see us at this point?
They can.
If anybody has any specific questions that they'd like us to cover about prospecting during this, we're going to encourage you, pop them into the chat box, and we will try, even if it's not into the presentation, I will try and work in some answers to your questions, because this is about you guys. I want you guys to get something out of this. So please take a minute or two. If you have any specific questions you'd like us to answer, pop them in there now, and we'll make a list of them. Now I feel like I'm at work.
No. Fantastic. Just so everyone knows who's attending, we will be recording this webinar, and we will post it later on today to the orlando.score.org website for you to listen to, again, if you missed anything, or to forward it to someone you think might benefit from learning more about how to fill your pipeline during the pandemic.
Well, with that being said, Bo, Lois, and Eric, I am going to kick off Coffee with a Leader with Eric Shulman. Good morning. My name is Joseph Simmons. I'm a volunteer with SCORE Orlando, and welcome to our event this morning. Let me just give you a quick 30-second commercial about SCORE Orlando. What we do is, well, we're a resource of support for the business community of Central Florida. We provide educational webinars like this event, but we also have other educational programs that if you visit our website at orlandoscore.org, you can take advantage of. While you're also at the website, you can also seek out a counselor or mentor to assist you in growing your business. We have a variety of counselors with a very diverse background, everything from marketing, sales, e-commerce, even HR personnel. So please take advantage of that. Again, you go to the website, or you can call 407-420-4844 to set up an appointment. Now, of course, during these times, everything is done virtually. So when you decide on a mentor, please know that that will be a virtual meeting. It will not be an in-person meeting. With that being said, one of the things that we'd like to announce this morning is that starting on March 2nd, right? That's March 2nd, SCORE Orlando has partnered with Amazon. Yes, the mighty giant of e-commerce, Amazon. We will be doing a 4-part series on doing business with Amazon. We will have Amazon personnel from their Small Business Academy to teach you the ins and outs of doing business with this platform. So again, please mark your calendars for March 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd for lunch with Amazon. This will be a 90-minute program starting at 12 o'clock noon. Again, details will be forthcoming. You can either get them by going to the website again, by registering for our newsletter, or by simply monitoring the website. Okay, we look forward to having you for that event. Now, as Eric said earlier, if you have questions, please go to the chat box and leave your questions there. Or if you want to raise your hand during the presentation, therefore Eric will be notified that you have questions and we can get those answered. One of the more important things is feedback. So please, at the end of this presentation, please go to Google and give us a review. We appreciate that very much. Now, I would like to take the time to introduce our speaker today. And one of the things I guess I've always loved is sales. I started out as a little boy selling greeting cards in a very rural community in West Virginia. So sales has been a part of me for, I won't say how many years, but it's definitely over 30. I'd like to introduce our speaker today. He has over 50 years of business experience, everything from retail to manufacturing. He's built and sold successful businesses 5 times. He's done sales training for 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Shulman.
Thank you, Joe. Good to see you. I didn't know you had sold seeds and greeting cards. I did the same thing. I won't say what decade it was, but I did the same thing when I was a kid. Good morning, everybody. What's kind of interesting is this. Every job is a sales job. You know, people talk about whether they want to be in sales or not. And sales is sort of an accidental profession. Joe, I'm going to ask you to keep your mic on because I will interact with you. I'll ask some questions back and forth. And you can keep your camera on too, so we can actually have a conversation if you'd like. Okay. But those of us that are married, if we ever sell our partner on whether we should go out to dinner tonight, that's sort of a sales job, isn't it, Joe?
Yes, it is.
And if to convince your kids to clean up the rooms is a sales job. you
Even
know,
for me to clean it up.
and to convince the waitress to give you extra blue cheese is a sales job. So when people say they aren't in sales, everybody is selling something at different points. And well, that's a whole different topic about the way we tend to think about sales. But let's talk about prospecting today. The world has pretty much changed. And those of you that are on the call, it's important that we get some feedback from you, because I can talk about prospecting in generalities, or I can talk in specifics. So if you're trying to do business to business prospecting, that's very different than doing business to consumer prospecting. If you're trying to sell a large ticket item, that's different than a small ticket. If you're selling something tangible like a cell phone versus services like CPA or training or coaching, those are very, very different sales, and you're going to have different questions. So please ask them and we will answer them. And the next question I ask is, what is the biggest problem in prospecting? We don't have a lot of input in the chat box, but so Joe, you and I both been in sales. When you were out selling full time, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had?
Price, getting face time, and overcoming objections.
Okay, so getting in front of them, which has a
Yes.
lot of different things. When you talk about getting in front of somebody, the first thing we deal with is that inability to pick up the phone, right? We call it call reluctance.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to make the cold call that you don't want to get, so therefore you don't make the call. We talk about gatekeepers that you're going to run into who may shut you down or reject you. We talk about getting stuck in voicemail. And then if we actually do get somebody on the phone, oh my God, what do I say? And there's all these pieces of the puzzle that you have to get put together to get that meeting. Overcoming objections. Objections are tough. I'm going to tell you something. I can't teach you how to do it today. We don't have the time. But Joe, the only person who can overcome an objection is your prospect. If I try to overcome their objection, I'm going to lose almost every time. But if I learn how to use questioning technique properly and ask the right questions, I can get them to realize, wow, well, I guess this is not going to be a problem. And then it's their data, not mine. And price. People say, the price is too high. And salespeople answer that like a question. People say the price is too high. I just say, and if you, Joe, tell me the price is too high.
Eric, my God, the price is so high on this product. Why is it so high? I can't afford it.
Joe, you must be bringing that up for a specific reason. Tell me what's going on.
Well, I guess the main thing is your competitor was in here. I've got a good relationship with him. And now you're coming in with the same product. So I'm kind of torn between the two of you.
Well, let me ask you this. The current vendor, scale of 1 to 10, 10, they're perfect, 5, they're average, 1, I hate them, but it's my brother-in-law. How would you rate them?
I rate them a 6.
Is that it? Why so low?
Well, again, it's a relationship. I've known Bo for 20 some years. Before the pandemic, we'd golf together, we'd spent time together.
But them performing at a 6 doesn't cause you any problems. I mean, they're never late. They're always there. They're responsive.
Yeah, they have been late a few times. And then, sometimes he hasn't kept his word in regards to the assembly of the furniture, this, that, and the other. So yeah, there has been issues, Eric. So
he's not telling you the right delivery dates. He's misleading on what did you say?
On the assembly, sometimes the product is delivered to the house and it's not assembled. We thought it was going to be assembled. So we've had some irate customers call us up and, bend my ear about, the customer service.
But you didn't lose any customers at all over that, did you?
We have lost customers, yes.
So how much money do you think these problems have cost you?
Wow. Jeez. Never thought about it like that, Eric. I would say anywhere from maybe, if we get 1 or 2 a month, anywhere maybe $20,000 to $30,000 a year.
How many years you been doing business with this guy?
20 years.
So how much do you think these mistakes have cost you?
God. And let me do the math. Maybe close to $250,000.
But you don't want to look at alternatives. Joe, does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
So what do you think a smart guy would do?
A smart guy would make an appointment with Eric and sit down and talk and see how we can maybe do some business together.
Now, you sort of fell into me at that point. But Joe, who overcame the objection about price? You or me?
I did.
And you will always believe what you say. We can do a program for this group on objections at some point, but I want to try and stay on prospecting today. So prospecting today, these are the challenges that I see. Let's see if we have anything in the chat box here.
Yes, we do.
Prospecting. We have a couple of things here. Started in sales at 17, would have starved, had not been a kind family member, been in sales along the way, don't seem to have the sales gene. If that person is married or ever dated, you've got the sales gene, man. You made a sale, okay? So don't think about that. The best way to learn sales is to do it. Adults learn by doing, not by watching. But you have to have a system or process to fail. The next person is in financial services, does B2B and B2C. Small business, don't have a dedicated salesperson. By the way, the owner is normally the first and the best salesperson for most businesses. You're not willing, able to build and cold call. So we're going to cover a little bit of that today. One of the reasons,
Eric,
yeah,
if I can interrupt you, we also had two questions that are in the Q&A, and that is there a difference between a lead and a prospect? And if so, what is the difference? And the other question is the challenge of getting to the decision maker.
Okay, lead and prospect. There's three different levels. And I'm glad you guys are asking these questions because none of this is on the slides. And I don't need to go past this slide if we're giving you guys what you need. A lead. I can give you if you remember phone books, I could give you a list and you can make phone calls. Those are leads. Okay, leads are available. They're out there. You go on the internet. People say, I can't find associations and organizations. I pull up Google, type associations, organizations, Orlando, and there's 14,000 of them right there. So leads are out there. Hey, so-and-so might need what you do. He has no idea who you are. You call him or her up and you've got to try and get through the gatekeeper, do all that. The next level up, Joe, is a referral. A referral is you don't know me, but you know my friend. Joe, if I wanted to introduce you to Bo, I would say, Joe, give Bo a call and ask him, would he admit to knowing Eric Shulman in public? He'll probably laugh. You'll laugh. You guys can throw me under the bus as to how you know me. But whatever credibility that I have with Bo in that situation rubs off on you. And the fact that I referred you in. Better yet, I do a referral letter. Joe, this is Bo. Bo, this is Joe. The reason I wanted you guys to talk is blah, 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 blah. You both have each other's contact info. You guys take it from here. The difference is you'll close 5, 10, 20% of leads that you get, depending upon how good you are as a salesperson. You have any idea what the referral close ratio is, Joe?
I would think it'd be higher, maybe around 80, 90%.
No, 30 to 40 to 50% on referrals. An introduction, where I sit you down or I arrange the Zoom call. Joe, this is Bo. Bo, this is Joe. Let me tell you why I got you guys together. We broke bread when we could actually sit at a table together, or we did it on Zoom. Now you're at the 80, 90%. It's up to you to screw it up. So do you want leads? Do you want referrals? Or do you want introductions? You realize you do 1/8 to 1/10 the work with introductions. So really what you want to get is introductions and not leads. What was the second question in the Q&A?
Hold on. Oh, it's, I'm sorry. How to get to the gatekeeper. I mean, how to get to the decision maker, the person that holds the money or makes the call.
There are two things that stand between us and the gatekeeper, us and the decision maker. The first, well, there's three. The first is you. The second is the gatekeeper. And the third is voicemail. I call it voicemail jail. It's like the Roach Motel for salespeople. Salespeople go in, they never come out. It's like a black hole. So Joe, why do people have call reluctance? That inability to pick up the phone?
Number one, they're not prepared in regards to what to say and how to say it. They haven't done it enough. And I always call it the hook. It's like in a song. If you remember the lyrics to a song, it's the hook. Yeah. And that works well because it stays in your head. And I think that's one of the biggest fears is that you're not prepared, so therefore you have the fear. Yeah, one of the Savita just said, LinkedIn is a good resource for finding associations. If you can find people through LinkedIn and get introduced through LinkedIn, it's like a referral. Again, that credibility rubs off. Or coffee with a leader.
Or coffee with leader, doing networking groups. There's a lot of different things that we can do. And I'm going down a couple of black holes here, but call reluctance. The reason we don't make calls, Joe, is it's your mother's fault.
Huh?
Where did you grow up?
Leicester, West Virginia.
Okay. Finish these sentences that your mother taught you. Children should speak when?
Spoken to.
Good. Don't chew your food with your mouth.
Open.
Don't talk to?
Strangers.
What's cold calling? Talking to strangers. What did your mommy teach you?
Yeah.
Stranger danger. And so here you are sitting at your desk. Your boss says, make these cold calls. And in your head, your mother is saying, don't talk to strangers. And that's why we have call reluctance. The other reason is we faced rejection. That's right, Savita. Nobody ever thinks of this stuff. There's a lot of the psychology that we have to understand how our own mind works. And then we understand how the other person's mind works. And then we can create a connection. So the first thing is overcoming that call reluctance. That's 2-hour class. So you've picked up the phone, you dialed. The first thing you run into is Betty or Jim, the gatekeeper. Hi, this is, so-and-so's assistant. What's this call about? Who you're with? Will he know that you're calling? And you don't know how to deal with that. So you have to understand that the gatekeeper is a decision maker. The gatekeeper decides whether or not we get through. The gatekeeper can be your friend. The gatekeeper can make sure that you get through. So what works with the gatekeeper? You got to understand the psychology of that person. Are they an executive administrative assistant or the person at the front desk of a 500-person company and low person on the totem pole? And if you understand their world and if you understand how to talk to them and connect to them, they can actually get you to the person that you need. So the gatekeeper is a decision maker. Treat him or her like a decision maker and they can help you. You also can go around the gatekeeper and you don't have to don't call for Mr. Big or Mrs. Big. Call for the accounts receivable department. Joe, if I called your company and said, hi, I'd like to talk to accounts receivable, please. Do they screen those calls?
No.
So I get through to accounts receivable. And the guy answers an accounts receivable. Hi, accounts receivable. And what I say is, I'm sorry, what department is this? He says, accounts receivable. I said, I didn't talk to, I need to talk to so-and-so in the such and such department. Could you transfer me? Hang on. And they transfer you over about 90% of the time. And now I'm talking to the decision maker. I didn't go in the front door. I went in a side door. And I can give you 30 or 40 different ways to do it. But getting to the decision maker is less than half the problem. The real problem is once you get the decision maker on the phone, how do you say something that makes them want to talk to you? And that's they call it an elevator speech. I call it talk tracks. There's certain things that you can say. You have to have a 10-second question or commercial that you can ask somebody that will engage them in a conversation. You have to throw something out there where they go, oh, I should talk to him. And it's not going to be about your product or service. It's going to be about their world. Joe, when you were working full-time, did you manage a team of salespeople?
Yes.
How many?
Highest was 20, lowest was 8.
All right. So if I were selling sales training and I called you up on a Thursday morning, I said, Joe, this is Eric Shulman. Listen, I don't want to waste your time. I have one question for you. Would it be okay if I asked it?
Yes.
What did your worst salesperson cost you last year in what they didn't produce?
Bonus and commission, yeah.
I don't know. How much?
$20,000.
But you've only got one bad one, right?
No.
Is that something you want to fix or should I hang up?
Something I want to fix.
And now we're going to have a conversation, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
I asked you one question with a follow-up question and you went, oh crap, I got to talk to this guy. You have to take people to what I politely refer to as their oh crap moment, where they realize they have a problem and have to do something. And I can come back and do something more on sales rather than prospecting, because we've sort of gone down a rabbit hole. I hope that was helpful, though, because it was some of the questions that were asked. If you'll keep breaking in, Joe, and stay live and let me know when we have questions, I will go to them. But I do want to get through some of this with people because this is what they signed up for. Prospecting has changed dramatically in the last year. There's BC, which is before COVID, and then there's now. A year ago, the problem was, as Joe said, getting through the gatekeeper, getting the appointment. People were in meetings, they were traveling, it was too busy to talk, you were trying to close deals, and you were doing and running around like a chicken with your head chopped off. Today, success is they actually got somebody on the phone. Somebody was actually in the office. They've got more time to talk. We're setting up calls like this. One of the positive things of what this has happened, and I always got to look for the positive side, is this is the technology and how we will be doing business 10 years from now. COVID has moved us technologically 10 years into the future in terms of the way we're using technology. How many of you, you can do it in the chat box, are finding yourself getting more done in less time because you're not having to travel and go to and from the office and go to these lunches and be all over the place? Is anybody other than me finding it to be a little more productive? You know, I filled up the car yesterday. I'm getting 2 months to the tank full, which is kind of interesting. We're actually thinking of selling the second car because we're not going anywhere. My little, you know, Lexus convertible's been sitting in the garage. The battery keeps dying. I got to keep charging it. So we've changed how we live. We've changed how we're doing things, and business has changed the same thing. But the problem is that we're still trying to prospect the same way. So what do we have to look at is this. All of this stuff happened because of COVID. And there are certain events that have happened in my lifetime. I remember when, Joe, you probably remember when Kennedy was shot.
Yes.
I was in 7th grade and they sent us home early from school. And I'll remember that day, it stuck right in my head. That was a black swan event. As you move forward and you start looking at things like the first Gulf War, the Arab oil embargo in 73, the Arab-Israeli wars, you look at the 9/11 attacks, you look at what happened with the financial meltdown 10 years ago, and you look at what's happening with COVID. These events are going to happen. This stuff will happen throughout our lives. The moon launch was not a black swan, it was a black swan event. It changed the way we looked at the world. So what happens is all crisis is temporary. And I always try and tackle one impossible thing at a time. So let's look at what success looks like. There are 3 elements to success that I have lived by for the last 30 years or so. They are behavior, attitude, and technique. You need all 3 of these. Hang on here. Well, I see the thing on the B2B people working from home. We will get to that later in the conversation. Okay. Behavior, attitude, and technique. And, you know, I always ask people, what's the most important? And, you know, everybody talks about attitude determines your altitude. If you add the words and attitude up and add, 1 for A, 2 for B, it equals 100. If your attitude isn't right, you don't tend to do things. And when I first got involved in training 25 years ago, I agreed that attitude was the most important thing. So if we take what our attitude is right now, let's face it, our attitude is not the best it could be because of all the tumult and political crap and the financial stuff and the COVID stuff and the being stuck at home and being afraid. And so our attitude is one of, this is the way it is. And we know it's going to be another 6 months or a year before we start to get back to some semblance of normal. And I don't know about anybody else, but a lot of people, that will affect our attitude. It is what it is. I've just got to deal with it, and I'll do my behaviors anyway. Well, if I'm making phone calls or if I'm attending meetings like this and my attitude is there, am I going to be effective at the behaviors? Am I going to really do what I should do, Joe?
No.
And I'm not going to really be any good at it. And I'm going to be doing it because I have to, very reactive. The techniques will be used intermittently because I'm not going to be doing it regularly because I don't think it's going to work. It's going to back up my limiting beliefs. And so therefore, I'm going to say I'm right to have this attitude because I did the behaviors and it didn't work. So why would I do the behaviors again? And we have a negative cycle going. I was taught about 25 years ago by a guy named Mark Fitzgerald over in Tampa. He said, everything starts with behavior. I said, Mark, no, it's attitude. He said, no, think about it. If you've got a good attitude and you don't do your behaviors or you don't have your technique, it's not going to work. The best attitude in the world, you know, going on the golf course is not going to make you play a good game of golf. You got to have technique and you got to be practicing your golf swing, right, Joe?
That's exactly right.
And that's why you and I are lousy golfers, because we don't. But what if we started with behaviors? What if we went out on the practice? What if we just hit the ball? Forget about the results. We just hit the ball. And we just did our behaviors on a regular basis. And we were committed to doing those behaviors. Would I get better at hitting that golf ball if I just committed to doing the behaviors?
Yes.
Good. So when I hit the golf ball and every fifth or sixth ball, I hit a really good one, my attitude begins to improve. And in doing the behaviors, especially if I'm using a coach, I start honing my techniques proactively. Well, that didn't work. Let me move the hand over this way. I'm using a golf analogy here, but the same thing goes for sales. Your 30-second commercial, if you haven't given it in a month or a week, it's going to be rusty. If you use it 6 or 8, 10 times a day, you're constantly refining it and it's getting better and better and better all the time. So now I'm using technique with my behavior. I'm getting better at the technique. I'm committed to doing it. I actually get some people on the phone. Well, what happens to my attitude when I get some people on the phone? I go, wow, this is working. I'm going to have faith in this. So if you start by just doing the behaviors, ladies and gents, even if you're not good at them, you will get better. Even a blind hog will find an acorn. What I challenge people, Joe, to do is this. Go get 20 no's in a row every single day. Go get 20 no's in a row. Go get 20 people to tell you, no, I'm not interested in your product or service. That sounds counterproductive. Most people don't get 20 no's in a week. And you're trying to get them to say what, Joe?
Yes.
And what is everybody else trying to get them to do?
Say yes.
So do the opposite. Joe, you're not looking to improve your sales team at all this year, are you?
I want to improve my sales team. Yes, I do.
But not this year.
Oh, definitely this year.
So what have you put in place for that? Anything?
Nothing so far.
Is that something we should talk about?
Yes.
Notice I was saying you didn't want to. Joe, do you want to improve your sales team? That's positive. Joe, you're not looking to improve your sales team at all this year, are you? Why wouldn't I? Of course I would be. Now you're pulling towards yes. It's kind of weird. It's Newton's third law of motion, which is, again, another whole course about negative reverse selling. But if I pull towards no, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to go to no or you're going to fight me. And if you fight me, you're pulling towards yes. What if I let go and let you win? Let the prospect take you to yes. Let me give you this and show you how this works in the real world. My wife doesn't like Mexican food. I love Mexican food. I go home and say, honey, had a really, really rough day on these classes. There's probably no way you'd let me bring in Mexican food. No way you'd let me bring in dinner tonight, is there? What would my wife say? Well, yeah, we could bring dinner in.
Yeah, you had a rough day.
But there's no way you'd let me order Mexican, even though I'm really in the mood. And my wife, about 70%, well, I guess we could. And you'll get the Mexican food by telling her she won't let you get the Mexican food. It's reverse psychology. I love food too. By the way, I've actually lost 12 pounds during COVID. I didn't gain 19, I've lost 10. I find that I'm eating a little more healthy. It's weird. You get bored by the food and you start paying attention to what you eat instead of just putting stuff in your mouth. And I don't eat 7 rolls at the restaurant before I have my lunch or my dinner because we don't put the rolls on the table. So it's actually easy to lose weight if you pay attention. But do you understand that if you run this and start with behaviors and let your behaviors, just do the behaviors, go to the practice tee, hit the ball, Make the phone calls. Go screw a couple of them up. You'll actually start to have fun. After a while, it becomes a game. Try to get 20 no's in a row. And this is the example that I used pre-COVID. It is virtually impossible to get 20 no's in a row at anything, Joe, and I'll prove it to you. Joe, you and I don't know each other real well, but you know that I'm about 5'6". I'm not a young man. I'm definitely not George Clooney, although I have the beard. If I went and stood in non-COVID times in front of the Altamont Mall, and I bet you $100 that I could get a woman to kiss me before I got 20 no's, and I'll ask the next 20 women who walk by, would you take that bet? Come on, look.
No, I wouldn't take that bet. I would not take that bet.
Why, you think I can get a woman to kiss me?
Yes.
See, if
all right, I'll say no.
Yeah, but the body. Yeah, see, how I would ask is very simple. Ma'am, I wonder if you could help me. I have a bet with my friend Joe here that I can't get a woman to kiss me. Look, I'm married. I'm not looking to pick anybody up. There's probably no way you could help me, even with just a kiss on the cheek, is there? And by the third lady, I'm going to get a kiss on the cheek from a Jewish grandmother. Come here, baby, I'll give you a kiss. And so it's in how you ask. And a lot of psychology goes into this. So let's take a look at why our attitude is lousy today. And I'm not going to point my finger at any one source, but this is our problem. We have so many input from so many different sources. And if you listen to any one of these, it doesn't matter where it is, you're going to begin after a period of time to believe. Nelson asked, what causes you to commit to behaviors? That has to do, Nelson, with setting a goal. Why am I working so hard? Why am I making these calls? If you don't have something specific that you're aiming towards, it's like getting in the car and not knowing where you're headed. You're driving fast, you're making good time, but you won't know when you get there. If you know you want to get to Daytona Beach, then you plot out the course and you drive to Daytona Beach in the most direct route. And if Daytona Beach is the goal and I'm taking I-4, but I get to the bridge in Sanford and there's a huge car accident, I get off and I go up 1792 through DeLand and then take one night, I find an alternate route. It might take me longer. But if the goal is to get to Daytona, so Nelson, you got to have emotional goals that you're shooting for. Again, that's a whole day program on goal setting. But if people don't have goals, 3% of people in America have written goals. And those 3% are worth more than the rest of us combined because they know what they're headed for. They did the Harvard study back in 1952. They interviewed the graduating class of Harvard University, found that 3% of them had written goals and objectives. They came back 20 years later in 1972, and the surviving members of the class, the 3% that had the goals written down, had a net worth of more than the other 97% of the class combined. So if you have a goal, you commit to the behavior, Nelson. Does that help? And Savita put in information overload. Yes, you don't need to sit and watch the news all day. And take your news from the middle, from the left, from the right, from very informative. You don't need the sensationalist stuff, and don't do the stuff on the fringes. And take it from multiple sources, and then you can make an intelligent decision. But if you're watching too much news, they call it TV programming for a reason. They are programming you. They're programming how you think. Regardless of what side of the slate you're on, they're programming how you think. So limit your TV time, garbage in, garbage out. What you will be in 5 years, a combination of three things: what you listen to, what you read, and the people you associate with. Joe, remember when our mom said, don't hang around with those guys, you'll turn out like them?
No, my mom had a better word. She said, don't hang out with riffraff.
Yeah, because you'll wind up like them.
Yeah.
And mom was right. We become who we hang around with. So let's take a look at these success triangles a little bit differently. One of the techniques we have to have is a script. I do not like the word script. I like the word talk tracks. Talk tracks are the things that we do, the words that we say that sort of come out automatically. If you walk into a retail store, they say, can I help you? Our talk track is no just looking. We all have it. You all used it. And that's an automated, or it's almost like an automatic response. We do it without thinking. How are you doing today? Fine. You know, it's your automatic response. Well, you need an automatic response. Well, tell me what you do. I help salespeople make double their income in about a year if they're willing to change. And in 1 second, you say, oh, I know what he does. But you're probably making more money than your wife can spend, right, Joe? And I got you right there, didn't I, man? And you have to craft something like that for your profession. I did one of these for a massage therapist years ago. And he said, well, what do I say? And I said, well, my name is Eddie, and I rub people the right way. You know, and right away you get the picture of what people do. So you have to have these little talk tracks, these little non sequiturs. You have to break the pattern of what they expect. That's called pattern interrupt. If you break the pattern of what people expect, you get they all of a sudden have to get out of just listening, and now they got to pay attention. I'm going to give you one word here. The word is engagement. If you don't engage people in a conversation, all you're doing is spinning your wheels. So you've got a script, and we have to have certain behaviors. We call it cookbook. A cookbook is a formula. My wife founded Sprinkles Custom Cakes back in 1988, 1989, and she's a baker. I am not a baker. Baking is a science. Cooking is an art. I can put extra this and extra that in when I'm cooking something. But if you're baking, if everything is not exactly done the right way, you don't get brown mush if you decide you don't want to put that much liquid in. You get brown powder. You don't get cake. So you have to have a cookbook, a formula for success. What are the things that you need to do? In your cookbook could be cold calling, revival calls, asking for referrals, networking meetings, doing free talks like I'm doing right here, and having those kinds of activities that you can measure. Because what you have to do to keep your attitude straight is you have to measure. If you're inconsistent in doing the behaviors, do I get any good at the script, Joe?
No. Can I just have you pause for a minute and just kind of dig a little bit deeper in the
Yeah.
One of the slides you talked about, Eric, was the world we're living in now. And one of the questions was, in this world we're in now, most people are doing business to business, people working from home. If you don't have a cell phone number, how do you get them on the phone?
Well, if you have an email, you've got to send them an interesting enough email that they want to engage. You can try and connect through LinkedIn or Alignable. You can see who they're connected on LinkedIn and try and get a referral. You can call for the accounting department, just like I said earlier, and then they'll give you directions or transfer you over. You can ask the gatekeeper for help. Listen, I'm trying to get to Joe. I know Joe's not working out of the office, but I don't have his cell number. If you were me and actually needed to talk to him, what would you do? There's probably no way you could call him and have him give me a buzz, is there?
Yeah.
I go a little bit helpless and I ask for help. Joe, you know me well enough to know I'm not a helpless guy, but I can struggle when I need to.
Yeah.
And when
and you know, Eric, I hate to interrupt you again, but that is such a great point in that human nature is people want to help you if they can. You just have to give them the way to help you. And you just wordsmith it very well.
Well, do you know why we feel compelled to help people?
Makes us feel good.
It's your mother's fault.
Again, my mother.
Okay. In your head, well, let me ask you this. Do you talk to yourself during the day?
Yes.
Okay. A little pause where you said, do I do that? And everybody on the call did the same thing. You know, do I do that? Yeah, I guess I do. And then you said the word yes. Okay. Where do the voices come from, Joe?
My mother and father.
Yes. Children should be seen and not
heard.
Okay. We have a nurturing parent and a critical parent voice in our head. Another class on transactional analysis. But the nurturing mother, when you see somebody having trouble, your mom says, Joe, help that guy out. He's having trouble. Your 6-year-old says, okay, mommy. And when you help me out, you feel good about you. So give people an opportunity in a call to rescue you from time to time. It keeps them feeling good about you. It also helps them feel non-threatened by you. I'm helping this guy out. He's no threat to me. And they'll tell you more and you get more truth. Your object in all of this is not to convince them to buy from you. Your object in all of this is to become a facilitator of the truth. The truth is they may need what we have. The truth is they may not. Our job is not to sell them or convince them. It is to basically teach them, make it okay for them to tell us the truth. If they don't have a problem that they need us for, that's okay. If they do, that's okay too. And they got to feel okay about either way. And part of that, another technique called an upfront contract, which you do at the very beginning of the conversation. We have some questions coming up and I will get to them. Let me get through this slide here. So we have our behaviors, but we're inconsistent in doing it, so we don't hone our script. If we don't hone our script, Joe, is it effective or ineffective?
Ineffective.
So we now have an ineffective script and our numbers say this isn't working. And so now we don't want to pick up the phone. Do you remember where we started in the lower left-hand corner with the behaviors that are in our cookbook in the other slide? What if we just did the behaviors? Forget about success and just made my 5, 10, 20, 30 calls or efforts a day. What happens is I'm committed to doing this. And so I'm committed to doing 10 of these. I do 10 of these, 2 of these, I do 2 of these. And the metrics are saying you're doing your job. Just being able to check off that you got everything done today, there's a level of satisfaction, and that affects our attitude where we're doing this measurement. Well, I'm honing this script using it over and over again consistently. So I'm actually getting better at it. By the 10th time I've said it, I'm better than the first. By the 50th time, I'm a whole lot better than the 10th. So now what happens is my numbers start to become very, very effective. So you have to start with just doing your behaviors. There's a question here. The owner of a B2B business, and you come to the conclusion you're not willing to cold call. Well, no, you're just not willing to. That's fine. You try to convince myself that I can because I should, but I don't. Contemplating hiring a salesperson. Hiring a salesperson is difficult because a lot of times they're just good enough to sell you in the interview. There's something that I can teach you called a hiring template that you can utilize to hold up to make sure you get the right one. But just because you've been ineffective at cold calling in the past doesn't mean you can't do well. One of the approaches you can use in cold calling, because I know that most of the people who are on this call probably are not good at cold calling. Probably don't have a lot of sales studs and studettes here, is to call people up and tell them that. Hey, Joe, listen, this is a cold call. I am awful at this. My boss is making me do this. Can I at least tell you what I do before you hang up? Or do you want to hang up now?
No, I want to listen.
You see, by going helpless, now Joe will at least listen to me. And he knows I'm going to be, listen, if you have any suggestions, I'd appreciate it because I am bad at this. And now he wants to help me. Your mother is saying, this guy's not a threat. Help him out. Okay, go ahead.
Colombo.
It is. It's the Colombo. Hang on. You're saying Colombo. I have, where do I have it? Right over here. I actually keep this picture in my office, Joe. It says it takes a smart person to ask dummy questions. And it's a picture of Lieutenant Detective Colombo. Those of you that are under 40, go Google Peter Falk and Colombo and watch one episode. You'll understand what he's talking about. And it is being honest. It's good, Latrice, you're right. It's just, say, look, I'm lousy at this. Would you listen? Or should I hang up now? And 9 times out of 10, they'll go, okay, go ahead. And then they'll help you through it if you make mistakes. And they're not threatened by you. And if you've got a good 30 seconds, if you've got a good question, one of the person asked, do I have any suggestions on that for people in the financial world? Yeah, my name is Eric Shulman. I do financial planning. 90% of the people that I talk to not only have a financial planner that they're using the day I first called them, that they're probably pretty happy with the one they got. Joe, that probably sounds like you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. But the smart ones, if they took a step back and they really, really examined, some would admit that they're really not getting the level of service from their guy that they should. I mean, they did years ago, but now it's like they're in the background. They really don't feel like they're getting service. Some of them are not, the investment isn't performing the way that it should, but their advisor doesn't seem to be giving them any answers. And sometimes the fees that they're paying are outrageous and they don't even realize it. But you're sure none of that's happening with you, right, Joe?
Now that you mention it, Eric, you're making me wonder. And some of the things you're saying are true.
Like what?
Well, I do feel like I am kind of not high on my financial advisor's list. I get a call maybe once every 90 days.
Isn't that enough? Did you need more than that?
Oh, definitely. I like at least once a month, just because of how tumultuous the market is right now.
And when you told him that, what did he say?
He didn't say anything.
Huh. But you're going to stay with him.
Wow.
But you notice I'm trying to say, but you're going to stay with him, right? And you're starting saying, yeah, why am I staying with him? We've just created a little bit of doubt. And it's, guys, do you also notice how gently this is done? So let's, Joe, we're finishing at 9. What time am I ending this? I just want to know.
You can go over. You're booked till 9:30.
Okay, we'll go a little bit.
We paid the bills.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to, I'm giving more than's on the slides because it's what people are asking for. So guys, the questions are good. Keep asking. The more questions you ask, the more of this stuff I'll dive down into for you. So here's the pieces that we need to prospect. You need to have a way to introduce yourself. You need to have some sort of a commercial that says what it is that you do. And by the way, the person who has the question on hiring at the very, very end, save that for the Q&A. And if you want to turn on your mic, we'll go back and forth on that. You have to be able to strip line, which is giving them some slack and then setting the hook, that hook question. But you're not looking to fix that this year, are you, Joe? That's a hook question.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe, have you ever gone deep sea fishing?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen pictures of deep sea fishing, like Jaws?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when they wanted to catch the shark in Jaws, they went out there to the area that the shark was supposed to be in. And then the captain of the boat took bloody fish guts, chum, and he started pouring it off the back of the boat. And then 2 minutes later, he'd pour another bit on the boat, and he was creating a blood trail in the water that the fish could smell and then follow to the bait. That's called chumming. Okay.
Yeah.
What you do when you talk to a prospect is you're basically chumming for problems. Look, Joe, I work with people, some of whom suffer from, and you throw an issue out there, lack of service from their current financial provider. Some of them, it's not doing as well as it should. And you wouldn't believe what some of them are telling me, and you throw another problem out there. And then I grab the line, I say, but you're not having any of those issues, are you, sir? Ooh, got a nibble. He bit on the hook. That's the hook question. So now we're going to set the hook, which is to have them convince us that this is a problem that needs to be solved. I call it the pain step. Where does it hurt? Why does it hurt? How come your current vendor can't fix that? Oh, that's awful. Do you think it makes sense for us to maybe talk? Set up a real appointment. So you set up an appointment and you do an upfront contract for what's going to happen, that he's actually or she's going to be at the appointment. And then you do the same thing over and over again. It's boring. You're doing the same thing, road activity over and over again. But if you do this consistently enough, especially the cold calling is not forever. Cold calling normally is about 4 to 5 years. Joe, you've been in your industry for how many years before you retired?
30.
But you were not in an industry where you're doing sales, were you?
Yes.
Okay. And after the first 4, 5, 6 years, did your level of cold calling go down?
Oh,
dramatically? Yeah, you already had all the contacts. The first 3 to 5 years, you're going to cold call like a maniac until you have the level of business that you need to have. And then after that, you start working through referrals and introductions. Why? It's less work. Joe, I didn't tell you this yesterday when we talked. You know why I got into sales?
No, I don't. Why?
Because I was ambitiously lazy. I wanted to make a lot of money. I didn't want to have to work hard, which is why most people get into sales. And we get into sales accidentally. You're working someplace and somebody says, you know, you're good with people. Let's try you in our sales department. And then, Joe, you wake up our age and we're still in sales, right?
Yeah.
You have a college degree?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a degree in sales?
No.
But you make your living in sales, right?
Yeah.
See, it's interesting. Do you know any college that offers a full degree in sales? Nobody.
No, just
UCF has a great professional selling program, and you get a certificate, but it's 2 semesters. It's not a degree. It's not a doctorate. I mean, sales should be taught in that way. There's a lot that goes into sales. You have to understand the psychology of people. Do you understand DISC?
Yes.
Personality types?
Mm-hmm.
Do you use it on a daily basis in all of your interactions, both personal and business? Are you aware when you walk into a room, oh, this guy looks like a C. She's probably an S. Do you change your demeanor and your address to that person based on their communication style? Do you understand transactional analysis, parent, adult, child, ego states? The rebellious child, who's the part of us that gets angry and throws a tantrum. The natural child that would rather be playing than doing this program today. Most of you would rather be anywhere else than having to be at work today. I know. It's okay. That's our natural child. The adaptive child, the manipulator that wants to get his or her own way. The critical and nurturing parent voices. You won't be any good at that. Second place is the first loser. Participation trophy, that's crap. That's critical parent. We believe in you. You tried your best. Mom will make it better. That's nurturing parent. Well, all these people live in our head. But do you understand that they also live in our prospect's head? So they've got the same voices. And if you understand that, I can create opportunities to have the one that I want to speak up in their head, speak up. I struggle a little bit. I do a little Columbo. His mother says, the guy's struggling, help him out. And then your 6-year-old child feels good. And if you feel good about me, when you're in a call with me, you'll want to stay on the call, right, Joe?
Right. Yeah.
The minute you feel not good about yourself, not okay, if I make you feel not okay, you want to go away. But if I make you feel okay or smile or have a good time with me, you'll want to hang around. So how do you be the person that people want to hang around with? You talked about earlier, Latrice said something about being honest. A good salesperson is disarmingly honest. A good salesperson tries to get to the truth, not sell people stuff. If you don't need what I have, that is literally what will come out of our conversation. And if you need what I have, that's what's going to come out of our conversation. And if you need something that I can't help you with, I probably know somebody and I'll connect you because that's what needs to come out of the conversation. This is ethical selling. Another thing, always make sure that the prospect wins bigger than you. If I sell you a $10,000 solution to a $100,000 problem, you win bigger than me, right, Joe?
Right. Definitely.
I made my commission on my $10,000 sale, but you solved a $100,000 problem. I gave you a 10-to-1 ROI. That's a good deal. I try and make sure that my prospect gets at least a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ROI before I let them write me a check. Try and run your business and run your meetings that way, and you get a tremendous amount of trust that you build. You know, people see salespeople as peddlers or vendors, suppliers. You've got to make them see you as a consultant or a trusted advisor, literally within minutes of walking in the room. Joe, in an initial meeting, an initial 1-hour meeting, how long does it take to make that first impression?
10 seconds.
Would you believe it's 2? And do you know why it's 2 seconds?
Visual.
We're visual, but more than that. Let's go back 10,000 years. We're a hunter-gatherer tribe wandering around Florida. Something comes into Joe's field of vision. Joe has to be able to decide within 2 seconds all of the following things. Is it moving or stationary? Friend or foe? Flight or fight? Food or fornicate? Literally. The amygdala, the old ancient part of the brain, had to instantly be able to identify friend or foe, fight or flight, food, or is this mating material? The human beings who couldn't make those decisions within 2 seconds, what do you think happened to them, Joe?
They were eaten.
Ah, they're not in the gene pool, are they?
No.
So we are genetically predisposed to make a very quick impression of something, safe or not safe, within a couple of seconds. So little things like facial micro expressions, how you're dressed, how you appear, what's behind you, okay? What you're wearing, whether you're paying attention or not. Do you have eye contact? You know, people say that facial hair can be a distractor. And 35% of people in America don't trust people with facial hair. The reason being is that you get distracted. Somebody's got a big bushy beard or the mustache with the handlebars, or the person who's got 9 earrings in the ear, right? Or you got metal pieces in your eyebrow or your lip or the big earrings. What happens is you and I are talking, and Joe, you've got a diamond earring in one ear. My eye constantly gets drawn to that earring because it's shiny. And I don't have enough eye contact with you, not because you're trying to avoid it, but because my eye gets drawn to that thing in your eyebrow or that thing in your ear or the big beard or the big mustache. And I don't feel comfortable with you because I didn't have enough eye contact. So if you've got facial hair like that, have a little bit more eye contact. Just focus a little bit more and you'll gain that trust. I never had trouble with facial hair. I've had it since I was 17 years old, and I've been in sales the whole time, other than a 5-year period when I shaved it off. When I grew it back, my wife said, that wasn't the face I married. Please don't ever do that again. So I promised her I'd never shave it off again. These are the kind of things that in sales we should be studying. Sales is an art, and it's a science, but you have to understand the science in order to do the art properly. So what do you say when you talk to them? Hey, Joe, this is Eric Shulman. Look, I know this is probably not a great time to be calling new people, but I'm just working through this. Look, rather than making this a sales call, how are you guys doing? How's this whole thing affecting you guys? That's a conversation Joe will have.
Yeah.
And Ken just said, in culture, there are different things. I mean, certain cultures showing the bottom of your foot, either cleaning the plate or not cleaning the plate. If you're doing business in other countries, you've got to be very, very aware of that. Let me ask you this, Ken, is that still considered a sign of hiding something today? He says it was considered that you're hiding something. I don't know if that's still true today, but I can understand that. So if you're doing business overseas or in different cultures, be aware of the cultural differences. Terms mean different things. The whole object is to start haven't been there in 20 years. Okay, we'll have to get you back there, all right, man? Once it's safe to travel. Well, you talk about sincere, Latrice, in terms of being sincere in selling. You have to believe in what you're doing. If you don't believe in what you're doing, if you don't believe in your product or service, you should be selling something else. I like to sell good stuff, and I like to make sure that the people are going to utilize whatever it is that I'm selling, and that they're going to get something out of it that's going to be more than they paid me for it. The years of when I was selling guitars and amplifiers, that they would get the right amp and the right guitar. It's interesting. You talk about honesty in selling. My family owned the Music Shack stores here in Orlando for 40 years. And back in the 70s, I'm selling guitars. Mid-70s, a kid walks in, wants to learn to play the guitar, and is set on his mom and dad buying of a Gibson Les Paul guitar, which was $1,000. This was back when you could buy a good used car for $1,000 in the 70s, and a Fender amplifier. So he wanted his parents to spend $1,500, $1,600, $1,700, and he had never played guitar before. And so the parents are coming in, it's around the holiday time, and they're like looking very, very worried. And so we're looking at the guitars, they see what the price is. I says, let me show you something. And I pulled down a $400 Les Paul knockoff. It was a Japanese guitar that looked like a Les Paul, and plugged it into a $200 amplifier. And I played something on the Les Paul with the expensive amp, then played the same thing on the other one, had him turn around, and he couldn't tell the difference. So I said, look, you let your parents buy you this one here, the cheaper one. I said, you commit to learning how to play. And then I turned to mom and dad. I says, if he commits and does this for a year, would you consider coming back next year and getting him the Les Paul? And the look of relief on the parents' faces was unbelievable. Now, Joe, the kid never came back. He never did stick with it. But those parents, I did the right thing by the parents.
Yeah.
I could have sold them a $1,600 package. It wasn't the right package for them. Start with this. That's ethical selling. You have to be honest with people. You have to know what to say. There's another one up here. What do you guys do? Are you guys hunkering down for the duration? Are you pushing forward, or have you given up? Where are you guys at? That's going to be an interesting conversation regardless of what you sell. So try and have what I call non-retail conversations. Joe, what are the objections that people are going to give us today?
Well, the most common one people always talk about is price. That always seems to be salespeople's biggest concern is price.
All right. Here's how to overcome price. Joe, let me get something out real early. I am not the cheapest at what I do. As a matter of fact, I'm more toward the top end of the scale. Now, the ROI is there, but if that's going to be a problem, let's talk about that now, because I don't want to waste your time. Do you always buy the cheapest?
No.
Why not?
Quality, customer service. Yeah, those two things.
But those things aren't important when it comes to the area I work in, are they?
Yes.
Why? And you're not going to sell me on why they're important to you.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, I'm convinced. So do we need to talk about price first, or should we wait until we figure out whether or not I can even fix your problem? Let me ask you this. If I can fix your problem and it's cheaper than what it's costing you, does the price matter?
No, it doesn't.
And if I can't fix your problem, does my price matter at all?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So people normally don't ask me about price till they're actually ready to sign a contract. We're not there yet, are we?
No.
You're on page 8. I'm on page 2. I'm trying to still figure out whether or not I can even help you. Could we back up? We'll get the price before we get off the phone today. But let's figure out if I can help you first. Wouldn't that be more important?
Yes, definitely.
That's called taking control of the conversation. And Latrice, I know you got to leave, but please get in touch. We'll have a conversation. Any other questions here as I go through the rest of these slides here? Objections. I think I talked to you about this yesterday, Joe. The only person who can overcome an objection is the prospect. And I did that little exercise with you earlier where you overcame your own objection. But that's a whole different technique. So what's working for me right now? I'm not doing face-to-face sales meetings. I'm not doing ride-alongs. I'm not going to live networking events. I haven't done an in-person call since April or May of last year. I'm not going to conferences. I haven't had a lunch out with anybody since last April. What I'm doing now is things like this. I'm doing video conferencing, online learning, and I'm doing most of my training and such virtual. I'm doing all my coaching virtually. I'm doing my cold calling. I'm emailing. I'm much more active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool. If you're not using it, you should go play with it. It's fun and it's profitable.
And also, if I can just give a plug to Coffee with a Leader, we've done a couple of webinars with LinkedIn, so you can go to the website and listen to those.
Please go ahead and do them, because nobody knows enough about LinkedIn in terms of how to utilize it properly. It is an unbelievable source of contacts and such. Doing webinars like this, doing free talks, every single person on this call is an expert at something. So just getting in front of a group or running your own meetings like this where you're giving some education and give some stuff away for free. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote Emerson's Law of Compensation, and it is real simple. It says to, I'll go back to the last slide for you.
You got
that. To get more, you must first give more. So I always start by giving. Whenever I come into a networking group or a new group or a one-on-one meeting with somebody, I would say, Joe, what can I do to help you? Is there anybody or any kind of company I can introduce you to that would be good for you and your company? I would start by saying, what can I do for you? I got about 10 or 11,000 people in my database. I've been in Orlando since 1973. How could I help you? You're welcome, Savita. and you start out by helping them. So free talks, if you're not doing free talks like this, you're missing the boat. Client relationships, revival calls, clients that left you a year or two ago, call them up, not to sell them anything, but to see, hey, I want to check in to see how you and your family are doing, make sure you guys are doing okay. Have you had to cut back on employees? How are you coping with this? And you'll have a really good conversation. And if they want to do business with you, it will eventually, I've been meaning to call you, Joe. Like, I want to talk to you about, really? Oh, okay. You can also, if they're an old satisfied client, you can ask for referrals. Whenever you do something for a client, ask them this question. Joe, if I did something for you, got something expedited, you'd probably thank me, correct?
Yes.
She'd say, thanks, sir, really appreciate it. And what people say, Joe, no problem, glad I could help. And you're bungling an opportunity for influence when you do that. Robert Cialdini wrote a book called The Principles of Influence, Principle and Practice. And in there, he talks about the principle of reciprocity. So when I do something nice for Joe, do something extra, customer service-wise, or help him out of a problem, and Joe says, Eric, really, really appreciate that. Joe, I'm glad I could help. I'm sure if the situation were reversed, you would have done the same for me. True?
That's right.
And I now have an IOU because he just said if the situation were reversed, he would do the same thing for me. I can cash it in right then like this. Well, Joe, you actually could help me. I'm trying to get an introduction to somebody in the such and such industry. You know a lot of people in that industry, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Any chance you could make a couple of introductions or referrals for me? Would that be asking too much?
No.
Listen, I'm not permitted to take more than 3. It's a company policy. Who are you thinking of first?
Yeah.
By the way, I can't do more than 3. We'll always get you at least 2.
Yes.
And the first name you get is never the good one. So it's little teeny things like that we have to be aware of. That's the prepared program for today. I'd like to dig into some of the questions and such. Let me close this here. What type of questions do we have that I didn't cover? Bo, Joe, what do we have in questions? And we'll go back and we'll do some of those.
Well, while we're waiting for the lines to be opened up and also people to enter questions in the chat box, one of the things you said, Eric, in regards to client relations, people sometimes forget that when you think your business is stagnant, go back to that pool of business that you've done. People have an understanding of who you are, what you've done, the level of commitment, all that with that core piece of base business. And people sometimes say, well, I need to go and look for new business. No, you can expand within that core if you've done it right.
Well, also, if you're working with a company, you can go wider in that company into other divisions. You also can go deeper into the company. You need to have multiple contacts at every company that you're working with. So does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask?
I think you covered this about prospecting on social media. I think you mentioned LinkedIn. You want to go a little bit deeper into that?
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're doing little videos that are little vignettes, give something away, doing it on Facebook. Thanks, Ken. Good to see you again, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Doing videos on Facebook, doing a video on LinkedIn, and just make it short, sweet, to the point. Make it interesting. Do it in the car. Do it out on your porch. Make it relatable. Hi, Eric here today, and your sales tip for today is this. And just give them a 1-minute tip on whatever it is that you do, and play with that. And if anybody wants to attend one of the programs I do, you've got the contact information. More than happy to have you attend a program. Any other questions from you or anybody else, Joe?
I'm just scanning right now. Oh, it says
the difference between B2B and B2C. Okay, Sonia, and where to start up with a new startup. Sonia, do you want to take yourself off of mute and we can actually talk? Because I can talk about it or I can talk with you. That's up to you. Can she take herself off of mute, Bo?
I've got her off of mute now.
Okay, Sonia, if you
Go
want
ahead,
to
Sonia.
talk, chime in.
Hey, hi, Eric.
Hi, what type of business are you in?
Actually, I just started a business, so it's not launched yet. And it's going to be B2C. It's meal kits, healthy meal kits. As you said, pandemic has changed people's attitude to eat more healthy. So it's meal kits, which you can prepare at home, healthy. Um,
So
and
it's B2C, and then
it's,
B2B
yeah,
is you're looking for other people that want to be involved and build a business, correct?
perhaps it's sometimes, large companies, they do catering and stuff. So of course, then this could be an option to cook together.
Are you going to be preparing the meals, or are you just selling the meals?
No, I'm selling the meals. The person is going to prepare it, whoever is.
Okay, you're going to have one challenge in that there are a lot of catering companies. I know Warren Deedle, who owns Puff and Stuff Catering. I know the people at Big City Catering. I've trained a lot of people in those industries. They have modified, they're already set up with commissaries. In the last 8 months, they have modified their business to do what you're trying to do. So you're going to be competing with people that already have the infrastructure in place.
Correct. But I am focusing mainly on Indian food. So Indian cuisine, it's not that much out there.
Okay. Then you're niche marketing.
Yes, exactly. The niche is Indian food for now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would be trying to get a free talk in front of any organization that catered to that specific market segment. If there's an Indian American Association, if you could do a talk on healthy eating, and work into what you do. So you need some informative talks that you could be putting out in front of people. A good way for you to get in front of large groups of people with one shot. Other than that, you're looking at marketing and positioning. So you got to talk to a marketing company because it's got to get out there in the real world.
Sonia, could you do me a favor? Could you leave your contact information? I think I know someone in that market space that might be able to help you.
Yeah, I mean, I actually started working on this business. I came to SCORE. So SCORE is the reason why I even thought about becoming an entrepreneur and starting something of my own. I'm still working on it because it's, as you know, it's a lot of work, and absolutely would love if you can connect me with someone who can help me a little bit more or ask me the right questions. Like just now, like Eric did. He actually told me what I'm against and I should be prepared for. So that's always nice. Yeah.
Joe, if you'll help her on that, I'd appreciate that. Somebody asked about DISC and several people answered it. And I like the way that you answered it, but DISC can best be described as, people think of it as personalities, and it's more about communication styles, okay? How people prefer to communicate. It's not our personality. Some of us are outgoing and some of us are reserved. It's not good or bad, it's just different. So if you drew a circle and wrote the word outgoing on the right side of the circle and reserved on the left side, and draw a line down the middle, which side do you fall on? Joe, are you more outgoing or more reserved?
I am, on my DISC profile, I am analytical and driver.
You're more
less expressive.
So you're reserved and task-oriented.
Exactly.
Because if you draw a line across the top, and the top is task, and the bottom is people, some are more people-oriented, some are more task-oriented, in the 4 quadrants, the right-hand quadrant, task-oriented and outgoing, is a D, the driver, the dominant, the director. Outgoing and people-oriented, which is the lower right quadrant, is the I, the inspirational, the influencer. The lower left corner is the S, which is reserved and people-oriented, the steady relator, okay? And the upper left corner, reserved and task-oriented, is the C, the critical thinker. I used to call them the CPAs.
Yeah.
And you fall on the top. You're very analytical. You're about getting the job done. And you're probably a little more detail-oriented than you are control-oriented.
More the reverse. I'm more control than I am detail.
Then you present with a little more C than D. That's been learned over the years. You've had to lower your D because of the environment or the places you've worked in.
Yep. And expressive drives me nuts. But my best friends are expressive.
Well, they're your opposites. Opposites. Yep. Your wife is probably an expressive.
No.
What is she?
She is analytical, what I would call
an S.
Yeah, and amiable.
Yeah, she's a CS or an SC, and you're a DC.
Yeah.
Opposites attract.
Good balance.
Joe, how long you been married?
47 years.
Around 5-6 years in, opposites attack. The things that attracted us to somebody who's so different from us. Now, Robin says, what if you're all of this? Robin, we are a combination of these, but we tend to have a dominant and a subdominant and a little bit of the other two. Just to give you an idea, I have 24 points of D. I want to be in charge. 12 points of I, but let's have fun while we do it. I have 4 points of C. I know it needs to get organized, but I'll delegate that to somebody like Joe. And I've got very little S, so I'm probably going to piss you off, so I'll let you know up front and I'll apologize before I get started. So my wife is a CD. She'll tell you how it gets done, the order it gets done. There'll be a list and check marks, and why it gets done will be explained. And she will be in charge, and she didn't care if you have fun. So and what happened was about 2-3 years into our marriage in the mid-90s, we started studying DISC. And as I'm reading about DISC, I said, oh, she's not broken. She's just wired a little differently than me. And so I started covering a few more details and letting go of a little bit of control. And she let go of some details and tried to make it, whatever it was, a little more fun. And we're going on 27 years this year. So, you got to understand that. The other thing you have to understand if you want to get into this stuff, if you haven't read the book, The 5 Love Languages, and there's a new one out called The 5 Love Languages for Business, it's about how we show people that we care about them. And they are physical touch, gifts, words of encouragement, quality time, and acts of service. And we have different love languages. Joe, my love languages are physical touch and gifts. I love to get gifts, and I like physical touch. My wife and I hold hands all the time, in the car, in bed, we're always holding hands. Unfortunately for me, my wife's love languages are words of encouragement and acts of service. So I'm giving her gifts and kissing her on the neck, and she's saying, you could have offered to do the dishes and noticed I had my hair done. So I learned to give more words of encouragement and acts of service, and she's learned to give me more of what my languages are. So part of this is really understanding yourself, and then really understanding. Nelson Rich has a thing here about social styles. Yeah, Wilson Learning. I knew the people at Wilson Learning pretty well.
Eric, could you? Because I think people kind of gloss over that in regards to communicating. Could you kind of give like a quick 30 seconds on like the DI and how you communicate to those different sectors? And
okay, for a D, hey Joe, let me just bottom line this for you. D's like bottom line. For an I, hey, let's get through this together, and I'm going to be more animated and more fun as I do it, because that's how you are. We're going to get off topic. We're going to talk about lots of different things. For the S, no hand motion, quiet, calm voice. S's don't like change. So don't talk about change. Talk about what's good for the group. They care about the group. For a C, C's want lots of details. Let's dig down into the details on this and make sure we're not missing anything. And the C goes, I like this guy. He thinks like me.
Yeah.
You can you have to be able, here's the rule. They will not change their buying style to match our selling style. We must change our selling style to match their buying style.
Yeah. Good.
And I think we're just about out of time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we went over, and I hope that's okay. What I would like is in the chat box, list one lesson learned before you go, one thing that you got out of today. I know a lot of you love the disc and stuff like that, but one lesson learned that you got out of today, one thing that you're actually going to do. That would be nice. And then Joe, you can wrap it up, or Bo, you can wrap it up, whoever's going to do the wrap up here.
I'll interject, Eric, and say I like the way that you asked the question almost in reverse, trying to get the no. We're always trying to get a closing ratio to go up, but what if we got the no ratio to we're striking for the no, and we get the yes? People tend to push back in any opposite direction they're given. So I like that technique.
But Bo, you're probably not going to do it even if it doubles your income.
Wow.
And that's how you do it. Yeah, go for no. Go for no.
Nice takeaways. Go for no. Yeah.
Esther, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm glad you made it today. Haven't seen Esther in a while. You owe me a phone call, young lady. My emulates confidence. Yeah, confidence. Confidence goes a long way in sales. People can tell whether you believe what you're saying. You really have to believe what you're saying. And that goes back to telling the truth. Start with no. Start with behaviors. Yes, just do the behaviors. You'll have success. And as you start to have success, you'll start to actually do more of the behaviors. You always buy the cheapest. If you want, Marianne, if you want some help on that, give me a call. I'll help you walk through that and give you some questions to ask them. Any of you, by the way, are willing to, just please give me a call. I'll help you. I've got some time. Not going to cost you any money right now. Cold calls, don't have call reluctance, use reverse psychology. Here's the thing. They're a no if you don't call them up, Sonia. Yeah. And if you find out they're a no, all you did was confirm it. But if you call them up and they say, well, yeah, I do want to talk to you, it's a good thing you made the call. You have nothing to lose because the client isn't yours. You have nothing to lose.
Wow.
If I don't ask her to the prom, I'm not going to the prom with her. If I ask her and she tells me no, I'm still not going to the prom with her. I haven't lost anything.
Wow.
Yes, give before you get. That's right, Nelson. Emerson's law of compensation. To get more, you must first give more. If you go into a networking meeting, try and give 2 or 3 people leads or make contacts for them without asking for anything yourself.
Yeah, not that much.
All right, I think we've got all the questions, guys. Understand the psychology part. Yeah, look into transactional analysis, Savita. Look into DISC. Go online and go type in free DISC test. Tony Robbins has got one. Take you 10 minutes to do it, and he'll give you a picture. You'll begin to understand that. There's a book by Florence Littauer called, also a book called Taking Flight. That's a very good one. Thanks, Sonia. Good to meet you too.
Thanks, Sonia.
All right, we see some folks are dropping off. We want to thank Eric Shulman for coming in. His contact information is on the screen, and this webinar will be recorded or was recorded, and it'll be up on orlando.score.org. Probably sometime this afternoon. Just go to Coffee with a Leader link, and you can click the link there, and you'll see Eric's title. Thanks again for everybody for coming this week. Our next Coffee with a Leader will be on the 18th. Where we will have a gentleman speaking. His name is Hector Del Valle. He is a public speaker. He is also going to teach us a little bit about dispelling the myths of handicap or disabled people in the workplace. And you can check him out at hdvspeaks.com. If you want to see a little bit about Hector before our next Coffee with a Leader. Again, that's going to be on the 18th of February. We'll be back at the same time, 8 o'clock. We look forward to having you guys back again for Coffee with a Leader. And by all means, feel free to spread the word and tell your friends to join us as well. Eric, again, thanks for coming today, this morning, and meeting with us. Lois, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, just a big thank you to Eric. It was very, very good. Even when you've been in sales and marketing for a long time, such as Bo, Joe, and I have, it's good to always hear from a different perspective. And I'm a big person on questions. And I think you really drove that home, Eric, and a lot of the comments coming in on how helpful it was, what did I learn, is the importance of asking questions. I tell clients, I might not have the answer for you, but maybe I can ask you a question to get you going down the right path.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you greatly. Everyone, please snap a picture of Eric's contact information. And as Bo says, it'll be up on orlando.score.org this afternoon under Coffee with the Leader. Good to see everybody. Have a great ending.
Thanks all. We'll see you in 2 weeks, guys.
Thanks, Eric.
Now go make a cold call and go sell something. That's an order.
There you go. Go make some money today.
Go make some money. Now go. If you don't use this today, it's going to fade real quick. So go try it. You're going to be surprised.
Yes. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. That went okay?
Fantastic, I believe.
Good.
A lot of good
As long
material.
as they got some value and they got some stuff they can use. That was my goal.
I believe we'll have some folks that will have some desire for a follow-up session on more in-depth selling, no doubt.
Yeah,
good job.
We'll pick a different, we'll dig down into a specific subject rather than something more general like this.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Let me know, Bo. I'll be here if you need me. Okay, man?
Will do. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your day.
All right. If I can do anything else to score, let me know.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.